You know, we know painfully little about the Tenseigan. Its only appearance and only usage was in the last movie being used by Toneri Otsutsuki. What caused it, where it came from, it's all speculation. Did you know that? We don't know anything about it, and every explanation you hear, whether it be from me or anyone else, is just speculation based on logic. We have no proof that Hamura Otsutsuki possessed the eye. In fact, in the times that we've seen him, he only ever displayed the Byakugan, and in canon, it was never shown that Hagoromo ever had a Sharingan. So since Hagoromo wasn't born with the diluted version, what makes you think Hamura would be? Honestly, we have no idea, and any theory would be acceptable. We simply say it's the way it is because we believe it to be tied to Six Paths Senjutsu, which we only know because the dojutsu grants access to Truth Seeker Orbs. Honestly speaking, I wish Kishimoto would bring the Tenseigan back into the story. In fact, it would be almost perfect if Himawari developed it. Let Boruto have his Jogan, and let Himawari have her Tenseigan. In doing so, both characters would get a hyped up dojutsu, and Himawari could make use of techniques not too dissimilar from Naruto's. She could get a chakra mode. And finally, Kishimoto could flesh out the true nature of this one-off dojutsu. But alas, until that time comes, we're left with imagination, attempting to find the proper explanation to the dojutsu ourselves. And as it stands, I still think it has to do with Six Paths Senjutsu causing a Byakugan to evolve the same way that a Sharingan evolves into a Rinnegan. But I digress. So far, this story has become a rather sad one. The deaths of the Hyuga, Itachi's illness, but we troop on like true shinobi. I hope you'll join me for this third part. Sit right back and grab yourself a bowl of ramen and let's get into it. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. We've also noticed that a lot of folks who are watching our videos aren't necessarily subscribed to our channel. We know that YouTube does a good job of getting you what you want to watch, but if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of our videos, or if you just want to support the Amagi, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Fugaku and Makoto sat in the office with the doctor. Itachi was resting on his mother's lap. His head rested against her chest as he seemed to have been wiped out by the tests he took. The room was filled with an air of dread, the humidity of it bolstered by the small size and the increased perspiration of his parents. Itachi felt comfort in this warmth, and in it he found himself straddling the line between alertness and the realm of dreams. Stage 4, the doctor said. Fugaku felt as if he were going to have a heart attack. Stage 4? What the hell are we going to do about it? What are the treatments? How do we fight this? The doctor clasped his fingers and pressed his brow into them. We can't do anything. It's too far along. The best we could possibly do is slow it down. Fugaku stood and slammed his hands against the table. We can't stand here and do nothing. The doctor looked up. We don't have treatments that can undo this, Fugaku. We can fight it as hard as we want, but we won't win. This is terminal. In the end, we need to think about quality of life. Do you want your son to be in immense pain, even though you know he won't pull out of it? Do you want to ruin what little time he has left with you? Fugaku stood there, tears dripping from his eyes as his fist slammed against the table. I don't want to say there was a chance and I didn't try. The doctor leaned forward. Fugaku, do you trust me? Fugaku looked at him. The doctor spoke. I took an oath to always do what is in the best interest of my patients. What I'm doing now is in hopes of leading to the best outcome. Do you trust me? Fugaku fell to his knees. Please, there has to be something we can do. The doctor stood and placed his hand on Fugaku's shoulder. There is. Take him home and keep him happy. Surround him with love and let him go in peace. Fugaku and Makoto went home with Itachi. He was sleeping by this time in their arms. Fugaku and Makoto had wished that they too were sleeping, because then they could wake up from this nightmare. They sat down in their abode on the couch, just holding on to Itachi as he slept. As Fugaku felt his son resting against his chest, he couldn't help but look back. The day Itachi was born, he had done the same. Oh, how he had grown. But he hadn't finished yet. He hadn't finished growing, and already twilight was on the horizon. Why? Why did it have to be this way? Why did Fugaku have to watch this? As he held his son tightly in his arms, his eyes once more overflowing with tears, he wondered why it couldn't have happened to him instead. "I am older," he said to himself. "I'm an adult. I've fought in the Third Shinobi World War. I've killed people. Why can't this happen to me instead? I'm the one who deserves it, not Itachi." Makoto sat there, tears in her own eyes as she reached out and tried to wipe Fugaku's away. "Makoto, what are we going to do? He's dying and we can't stop it. What do we do?" Makoto shook her head. "I don't know." She had never seen Fugaku like this before. She understood why though. Fugaku was a man who liked to tip everything in his favor. He liked for everything to be under control, particularly under his control. But this was not, and it stung. Not just because he couldn't control it, but because he knew what the outcome was for this thing that he couldn't control. She leaned forward and wrapped her arms around both Fugaku and Itachi, sandwiching the boy in the familial love of his parents. It was just then that Sasuke and Naruto were coming down the stairs. They saw the scene. No words had to be said. Sasuke and Naruto already felt the heaviness, saw the tears, and knew the truth. They made their way down the stairs and to their family. They too hugged on. And as they did, Fugaku managed to somewhat gain control of himself with a deep breath. He looked to his children. "Listen," he said in a calming tone. "Your brother is asleep right now. When he wakes up, we do not speak of any of this around him. We need to be strong, specifically for him, okay? So we don't cry around him. We don't talk about this around him, and we let him have his way on pretty much anything he wants." Each of the boys agreed to this. As time passed, things began to grow a bit more normal. The thought of this situation was ever present in everyone's lives, but they hid it well, going about their daily lives, training and playing about. Though Itachi didn't train, he would spend time playing with Naruto and Sasuke, and when training happened, Itachi would spend time with his mother, what he called the silver lining. This was one of the most heartbreaking aspects, because Itachi wanted to train with Naruto and Sasuke, but he couldn't anymore, which led to Itachi feeling a bit left out. Makoto attempted to help her son through these feelings by spending more time with him. He would smile, of course, but she could see it in his eyes. On one occasion, Fugaku was going about his daily duties in Konoha when he was called to the office by Hiruzen. Taking a seat, the two would begin speaking. Hiruzen was getting down to business. "The Chunin exams are coming very soon. The village will need the police force active to keep the peace. There's no telling who might use this as an opportunity to bring shame and harm upon the village. So we need you and the rest of your clan to remain ever vigilant to help ensure that things run smoothly. The quality of your work is what will determine whether these exams become a bridge to world peace or a bridge to world war." Fugaku gave a slight bow. "Yes, Lord Third." A moment passed as Hiruzen sat there, his face turning to a light, though slightly dim smile. "How is your son?" Hiruzen asked. Fugaku did not raise his head from the bow. He's very brave." Hiruzen nodded solemnly. "If it's any consolation, I've called in my pupil Tsunade. She should be in the village soon. She is the most skilled medical nin I have ever seen, and her work on people can do what many would consider a miracle. If anyone can help Itachi, it will be her." Fugaku looked up at Hiruzen, obviously fighting back tears. "Thank you, Lord Hiruzen." Hiruzen sat forward. "In the meantime, I wish to keep your family busy. They say that idle hands do the devil's work, and so I'm hoping to keep all of you active in the community, if for no other reason than to take your minds off of things. I would like to offer Naruto and Sasuke the chance to enter the exams. As it stands, the exams will require a team of 3, but I'll make an exception for Naruto and Sasuke. I'll even give you, Makoto, and Itachi front row seats to the exhibition matches alongside me in the Hokage's viewing box. What do you say?" Fugaku once more lowered his head. "My lord, this is so much. How can I ever repay you for your kindness?" Hiruzen stood and sat Fugaku up. "Kindness should not need to be repaid. If love came with conditions, would it even be love? If you want me to attach conditions to this, then my only condition is to ensure that Itachi has the time of his life. And when Tsunade comes, make use of her medical prowess to try and heal your child." Fugaku's eyes ran over with tears. "Thank you so much." Hiruzen, coming down to his knees, which seemed to creak as he knelt down, offered Fugaku a hug. Itachi was at home with his mother. They were both in the kitchen. Lunch had already passed and Naruto and Sasuke were back outside training. Itachi, unable to join them, decided to help his mother with some chores. He stood there, helping her wash the dishes. She would wash them and then dip them in water to rinse them off before giving them to Itachi, who would dry them and put them away. This cycle seemed to go on forever, and for that time, Makoto was fine with it. If she could have this moment last for 1,000,000 years, she would wash the dishes until her muscles fell from her bones in her hand. Anything to spend even a moment more with her child. However, as Itachi took a knife from his mother, he slipped and accidentally cut himself. He let out a quick gasp. She turned around and saw him holding his hand. She knelt down and grabbed the towel. Let me see. She looked at the cut. It was rather deep and blood seemed to pour from the wound. She covered it up. Are you okay? Itachi nodded. I will be. Makoto smiled. Come, let's get it cleaned up. She took him into the living room where she sat him down and grabbed a first aid kit. She opened the box and began taking things out of it. Once upon a time, she had done this for his skinned knee. That was the day she knew everything would change, and now she prayed that day might repeat and that today everything would change for the better. Let me see your hand. Itachi unwrapped it. Makoto went to clean it, but to her surprise, she saw that the wound was already partially closed, a touch of steam appearing to exit it. What is this? Itachi looked at it. It must be the power of the Nine Tails. Makoto looked up, confused. As Itachi explained it to her, he thought back to the moment. He'd been playing with Naruto and Sasuke when his body seemed to grow weak suddenly. He grew dizzy and fell, cutting his knee pretty badly. Naruto and Sasuke would rush back to him to see what happened. Upon seeing the blood of his knee, they would try to comfort him. That was when Naruto came up with the idea of sharing some of the power of the Nine Tails. How was it that Naruto knew how to do this? That was unknown. One might chalk it up to the remnants of Minato's chakra within Naruto offering him this blessing, showing him how to cleave the chakra of the tailed beast. The Nine Tails was carved into 3, Naruto offering the Yin third to Sasuke and what was called the Wuji third to Itachi. Of course, it also seemed that Naruto didn't really understand the concept of the Tao, as Wuji was the state of being before Yin and Yang, when both were one. It wasn't the third part, but nonetheless, Itachi accepted it with joy. And because of this, Itachi had felt his strength increasing, as well as his healing factor. And that was what led to this here today. To Itachi's hand healing more quickly than Makoto could treat it. She understood. Naruto was very kind to share it with you, she said. Something so valuable to him. You should find a way to thank him. It was about that time that Fugaku returned home. Casting off the bag around his shoulder, he stepped in. I have some good news. Makoto looked back. Good news. He nodded. I want the entire family here for the announcement. Makoto nodded and went to the back door. Naruto, Sasuke, your father's home. He wants to talk to you. She saw Naruto and Sasuke push away from their clash to look over. Sasuke raised his hand to verify that they had heard her. She returned to the house and waited in the living room with Itachi as Fugaku stood there with a smile on his face. She had not seen him smile like this in a long while. Something truly wonderful must be occurring. Naruto and Sasuke would eventually return to the house and take their seat at Fugaku's request. Fugaku then spoke. I have a few pieces of news that I wanted to share with you. First, Naruto, Sasuke, Lord Third has given his approval for you two to enter the Chunin exams. Naruto and Sasuke almost immediately leapt out of their seats. Really? We're going to get to take the exams? Fugaku nodded with a smile. Indeed. You two should train very hard. He looked over at Itachi, who covered his disappointment that he would be unable to join them with a small smile of happiness that they were getting the chance to ascend to a new rank. Fugaku walked over and knelt down and took Itachi's hand in his own. I have more good news, Itachi. Hiruzen said he's calling Tsunade back to the village. She's perhaps the world's best medical nin, and her feats of healing are nothing short of legendary. She's coming to the village specifically to treat you. Itachi's eyes lit up. Does that mean I might get better? Fugaku smiled. I have hope. Itachi smiled and hugged his father. He pat his son's head. Itachi was so happy tears were streaming down his cheek. If I get better, maybe I can take the Chunin exams next time. Fugaku laughed. Of course. If you get better, I'll take time to personally train you and get you even to Jonin levels of strength before the next Chunin exams. Makoto came in from behind to hug Itachi, with Naruto and Sasuke both joining thereafter. Fugaku then spoke. Lord Fourth also offered to give us a perfect view of the exams when they happen. So even if you can't participate this time, Itachi, you'll get to watch and enjoy the exhibitions. I would love that, Itachi said with a voice full of joy. I love that, and I love you, Dad. And so, as the dates grew nearer, Naruto and Sasuke doubled down on their training, with Fugaku doing his best to coordinate the police force to better protect the village as others from the outside began to come in. Among those showing up in the village was Tsunade. It had been quite some time since she had been in Konoha. She noted that, though it was full of many memories she'd like to forget, it was nice to be back in her home village. But she didn't have much time to rest. She would end up going to the apartment that was provided to her, where she would clean up quickly and get her things unpacked. She would then make her way out and head for the home of Fugaku Uchiha. She would enter the home to find Itachi and Makoto happily waiting for her. To be honest, for a boy as sick as she was told, he seemed to have plenty of energy and was beaming with excitement at her arrival, which was a welcome feeling. "You must be Makoto, and this is Itachi, I assume." Makoto smiled. "Yes, you must be Tsunade. I've heard only great things about you." Tsunade scoffed her way into a laugh. "Then whoever told you about me didn't tell you the full story." She began going through her bag. "Let's get down to brass tacks." She walked over to Itachi. "We'll begin the examination, yes?" Tsunade began to examine Itachi and take the medical reports that had been made throughout his life, as well as the more recent one that showed the illness. At this point, Tsunade knew more about Itachi's medical history and current condition than any single person did, and that was exactly what was going to make or break this whole situation. Tsunade would stand. She would crack her neck a little and let out a relieving sigh, as though she had just done something extremely strenuous, and, perhaps she had. She looked to Makoto and Itachi. "The illness has truly come a long way without anyone knowing about it. Can it be stopped?" Makoto asked, with a hint of hesitation. Tsunade thought about it for a moment. "Honestly, it's gonna be a challenge," but she looked to their faces, full of anticipation. She let off a smile. "I think I might be able to do something." Itachi and Makoto's faces both lit up. Tsunade held out her hand to slow them down. "Now hold on, don't get overly excited. This is gonna be a long, grueling fight. It's not gonna be easy on anyone here, least of all Itachi, and even then there's a chance it might fail." "But there's hope?" Makoto asked. Tsunade nodded. "Yes, there is hope. That's all I need," Itachi said. "A little hope and all the tools necessary to succeed. Leave the willpower to me." Tsunade nodded with a bit of pride. This boy was truly special. She pulled out a bottle from her bag and handed it to Makoto. "See that he takes these twice a day, one at breakfast and one before dinner. Just make sure he takes it with food. This will help slow down the progression while I work on a tailor-made treatment just for him." Makoto took the bottle in her hands and looked at the label. She smiled at Tsunade. "Thank you." Tsunade closed up her bag and made her way to the door. "It's paramount that he gets plenty of rest. Don't let him overwork himself, and make sure he sleeps at least a full 8 hours a night. I'll get back to you soon with his treatments." She left. Makoto hugged Itachi tight and kissed his cheek. "We're gonna fight harder than the Third Shinobi World War on this, Itachi. And once this is behind us, you'll go on to become Hokage just as you dreamed." The rest of the day seemed to fly by. Everyone returned home from training and preparing for the test. They would have a family meal together. Makoto would give Itachi a pill, and they'd sit down to eat. They would discuss what Tsunade had told them. Fugaku knew that the path forward was going to be painful, but there was light at the end of that tunnel, and so long as Itachi came out of this happy and healthy, there was no pain that Fugaku wouldn't bear. After dinner, they would spend time playing games and doing things as a family that they found fun until about 11 p.m. It was then that they would all decide to turn in for the night. Laying him down in his bed, Makoto and Fugaku would kneel next to him and tell him how much they loved him. "Sleep well, little warrior," Fugaku said as his lips pressed to Itachi's forehead. Makoto was next. She kissed his cheek. "Sleep well. You'll need all the strength you can get to kick this thing's butt." Itachi would smile and acknowledge their words, telling them good night. They would then turn out the lights and close the door. They would then move on to Naruto and Sasuke's room. Makoto knelt down by Naruto's bed and stroked his hair. "That was really nice of you, giving Itachi and Sasuke a part of the Nine Tails. I'm so proud of you. Your heart is so large that few can compare." Naruto shook his head. "Itachi's my brother. I would do anything to help him." Makoto almost came to tears. She kissed Naruto's forehead slowly and gently. "What did I ever do to deserve being blessed with such kind and loving children?" On the other side of the room, Fugaku was kneeling next to Sasuke. "You excited about the Chunin exams?" The boy solemnly nodded. "What's wrong?" Sasuke looked up. "I wish Itachi could take the test with us." Fugaku smiled. "Your brother is fighting a different fight, and it's just as important as yours." Sasuke sat there silently. "I don't know if I want to take the Chunin exams." Why not? Fugaku asked as he pushed Sasuke's hair to the side. I want me, Naruto, and Itachi to take this test as a team. I don't want to leave Itachi behind. Fugaku took a deep breath and let it out with a smile. Itachi's looking forward to watching you. Did you know that? He wants to cheer you on. You aren't leaving him behind, you're showing him your strength. And he'll use that strength to fight on his own and defeat this. Then he'll catch up to you all over again. So don't take this test for yourself. Take it for Itachi, okay? Sasuke nodded. I'll do my best. Attaboy. Fugaku would kiss Sasuke's head. After this, he would turn out the lights and close the door behind him as he and Makoto left. The day after, they woke up, had breakfast, and went on to do their daily duties. Fugaku had to return to Police HQ to run the final checks on the test as Sasuke and Naruto made their way to the location of the exam's start. Makoto and Itachi went about their day, going out into the village to experience everything. Itachi was sure to wear his headband bearing the mark of his village as he went, hoping to be a good representative. There were people here from everywhere. Shinobi from Kusagakure, Amegakure, Sunagakure. It was the most alive Itachi had ever seen the village, and it made him happy. But what he didn't see were the forces of darkness moving around behind. Neji Hyuga and his father Hisashi were both in the village. And you're certain that this Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha are the next incarnations of Indra and Ashura? Neji asked. Hisashi nodded, his face still hidden behind a mask. Indeed it is. As an impure reincarnation myself, I can sense the history of the chakra that flows through them. Neji nodded. Fine, then let's grab them. Hisashi held out his hand to stop his son. Neji looked up at his father with curiosity. If we take them now, Hisashi said, then the entire village will know and will be hunted and destroyed. We must wait for the opportune moment, a time during the exams. Then we can take them. Neji sighed and reluctantly agreed to this, and so the two continued to simply watch. Naruto and Sasuke were brought into the exams where they were surrounded by people older than them and of a higher number. Perhaps we won't have to worry about waiting on Itachi, Sasuke said. Yeah, these guys might knock us out in the first round. Sasuke honestly wasn't so sure. The trauma of Itachi's diagnosis had awakened within him the Mangekyo Sharingan. With a little bit of training, Sasuke had discovered many new techniques, among which was the ability to generate black flames, and the second was to alter that fire. Besides that, he found that he could create and manipulate part of a chakra avatar. It was still incomplete, but he could. Eventually, they'd be led to a new room to take a written test. The test was simple for Sasuke, but for Naruto, it required pure luck. The questions were insanely difficult, but the more Sasuke looked at them, the more he believed that Itachi would have no issue at all. They managed to pass through, and so they were taken into the Forest of Death. Here, it was a game of capture the flag that would last 3 days. As soon as Naruto and Sasuke went in, they couldn't have known what would happen next. The first day passed, then the second. Finally, the third day passed, and Naruto and Sasuke had yet to finish. Fugaku began to grow weary. As the test ended, he sent a squad of Konoha police officers into the forest to search for Naruto and Sasuke. After sweeping the whole area, they found nothing. This caused Hiruzen to panic. They had just lost their Jinchuriki. What were they going to do? On the fourth night after Naruto and Sasuke entered the Forest of Death, they still found nothing. It was believed that they had been captured and whisked away by another village. Itachi offered to help his father search for Naruto and Sasuke, reminding him that he possessed the Nine Tails, just as Naruto and Sasuke did, and that he could use it to help them find the two. However, Fugaku refused this, telling Itachi that he couldn't. He was too sick to do anything. He needed to stay home, elsewise he could overexert himself and become more ill. Itachi was adamant, however, that Naruto and Sasuke would not be found quickly enough to save their lives unless he intervened. But Fugaku was insistent on Itachi staying home, telling his son that his word was final. Itachi didn't take this well. He believed that his father, in an effort to protect him, would condemn Sasuke and Naruto to death. And so, as night fell upon the household and it was time for Itachi to sleep, he waited until his door was closed. He then got up, grabbed his shinobi gear, and made it outside of the home. He looked back at the home for a moment, silently apologizing within himself before turning and making his way toward the Forest of Death. There, he attempted to sense the presence of the other pieces of the Nine Tails. He picked up on a trail, but strangely it was leading him away from the forest. He began following it, going through the village into the sewers. There, he sensed the chakra of the Nine Tails at its strongest. He began to follow the trail through the murky, disgusting wastewater until it led him to another manhole cover. Coming through it, he found himself outside of the village. He followed followed after the energy, walking well into the morning. Back at his house, his parents would go to wake him up for breakfast. He had an appointment with Tsunade that day that they needed him to be ready for, but as they entered his room, they found it empty. They immediately knew what this meant. Fugaku ordered part of the police force to fan out and search for Itachi as well. Itachi continued walking well into the daylight hours, stopping only for a moment to eat something before continuing his journey. He found himself at the mouth of a cave. Naruto and Sasuke were inside. He was sure of it. He activated his Sharingan and entered the cave. There he found a deep pool of water. He sensed the Ninetales' residual energy emanating from within that pool of water. He would dive down into it, but as he did, he found bubbles. Each bubble bore with it a reflection of a memory. Itachi would eventually collide with one. Suddenly, it was as if he were transported home. Huh? This isn't right. Wasn't I just... Wait, where was I? He saw a crowd cheering his name alongside Sasuke and Naruto. I was in the forest of death. I'm in the Chunin exams. He smiled. He was enjoying this. It was as if everything in the past had simply fallen away. His illness, his weakness, everything. It was like one bad dream. He was being given a medal by Lord Hiruzen for his good work at becoming a Chunin. Sasuke and Naruto placed their arms around his shoulders. If any of us deserve to be a Chunin, it was you, Sasuke said. We are glad to have helped you, Naruto said with a wide grin. Itachi smiled. I couldn't have done it without you. Suddenly, he felt pain in his chest. He fell to his knees. He couldn't help but cough, and as he did, blood poured from his mouth. Huh? Are you alright, Itachi? Sasuke asked. Yeah, are you alright? Naruto asked. Itachi sat there for a moment. Cancer, he said under his breath. He looked up and around. I remember now. This isn't what happened. This was what I wanted to happen. He looked at Naruto and Sasuke and remembered that this was a fantasy he had when he was told that the Chunin exams were going to be held in the village, and that Sasuke and Naruto could join. He looked at his brothers with tears in his eyes. I'm going to save you. I promise, he said. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other confusedly. Itachi would hug them tightly. As he did so, he would then hold 2 fingers up. Release. Suddenly, Itachi woke up on the shore of the pool of water. He spewed water from his mouth as he rolled over onto his hands and knees. He sat there for a moment before another coughing fit overtook him. He expelled blood from his mouth. He tried to catch it with his hand. Looking down at the red liquid covering the palm of his hand, he knew he had to hurry. He stood and followed the trail out of the cave. He found himself in an unfamiliar location. An abandoned village, it looked like. This was not like any village he had ever seen on Earth. He continued on, following the trail until it led him to a castle. He saw it and entered. There were no guards, nothing stopping him. He kept to the shadows and continued to follow the trail of the Ninetales. It led him to a particular room where Naruto and Sasuke had been chained up. Itachi walked in. Psst, psst, Naruto, Sasuke, he whispered. Naruto looked up. Itachi? Itachi began to free Naruto from his bonds. What are you doing here? Naruto asked. You're sick. Itachi looked at him. I had to do something. Dad wasn't gonna find you. I knew that only I could do that. He then walked over to Sasuke to free him, only to stop when he noticed that Sasuke's eyes had been covered. What's with that? Naruto looked away. They blinded him. Itachi looked over in surprise. What? Naruto refused to look up, unable to look at the torment of his brother. Sasuke developed the Mangekyo Sharingan at some point, and when they captured us, he began sending black fire everywhere, hoping to kill them. He managed to set one on fire. His body burned away, but he somehow came back to life. They then blinded Sasuke so he couldn't do it anymore. Itachi looked up at Sasuke with eyes full of sorrow. He didn't say a word. He simply undid the chains and pulled him down. Oh, what do we have here? A voice said from behind. Itachi turned back to see the form of Hisashi Hyuga. What have you done to my brother, and why? Itachi demanded. Hisashi stood there. We took your brothers because they were the key to something powerful, something important. Through them, the Tenseigan could be awakened, and now we'll use them to bring true peace. Peace, Itachi asked. Hisashi nodded. So long as Shinobi exist, peace will remain out of our grasp. Through the power of the Tenseigan, we will destroy the warring Shinobi villages. We'll eradicate the cancer of war before it can spread. Itachi was appalled by this. The concept of creating peace by destroying those who were the only ones capable of experiencing it. To that, Itachi's eyes switched to Mangekyo. Naruto was surprised. Itachi, when did you... How? Itachi looked over. Quite a while ago. How doesn't matter. All that matters is that I have them. Keep Sasuke safe. I'll deal with this man. Itachi would then rush at Hisashi, striking out at him. Hisashi was surprised that a boy like Itachi had the strength that he did. It was astounding. Itachi would flip over Hisashi and then weave his hand signs, forming the Great Fireball Jutsu. He would launch it at the man. Hisashi would jump over it, just as Itachi had expected. He then cast a Materasu, setting the man ablaze. The flames began to burn Hisashi to ashes. Itachi took a deep breath, attempting to calm down. However, rising from the ashes, Hisashi stood. "It'll take more than that to defeat me," he said. Itachi looked back. "What are you?" Itachi asked. Hisashi answered that simply, "Immortal." Realizing this, Itachi knew that he had no choice but to use that. It was strenuous, but it was their only chance. Itachi would summon his Susanoo to protect him. The Susanoo would cover his body, protecting him from attack, but that's not all it was meant for. The Susanoo pulled the blade of Tatsuka. "Immortal or not, you will not walk away from this battle." He would strike Hisashi with the blade of Tatsuka and would seal him away. Itachi would then fall to his knees, coughing. Naruto would race over to him, holding Sasuke's hand. The two of them would reach out to Itachi. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked. Itachi would spit, blood present in his saliva. "I'll be fine. Let's get out of here." He would stand and begin to race out with Naruto and Sasuke. Together, they would flee into the cave and return to Earth. Finally safe, they'd begin their trek home. "What did they do to you?" Itachi asked Naruto. "They took our chakra." "Why?" Itachi asked. "To awaken some new kind of Byakugan. They wanted to use it to drop the moon on top of Konoha." Together, they walked for quite some time, and as they did, they would notice Itachi's breathing becoming more noticeable and labored. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked. Itachi nodded. Yeah, I think I just have a fever. We need to get back home, soon." Naruto stepped forward and stopped. He tied a rope around his waist and then the other end around Sasuke's. He then stepped in front of Itachi. "Get on," he said. Itachi looked away, embarrassed. "No, I can't have you do that." Naruto looked back. "You came all this way after us. The least I can do is carry you back. Now get on. I'm not asking you again." Itachi reluctantly climbed onto Naruto's back. Together, the three brothers made their way back in Konoha's direction. However, before they got there, they were stopped by Neji. "What did you do to my father?" he demanded, looking down on them, his eyes displaying the regal glow of the Tenseigan. Naruto looked up at him. "What we had to. He's gone. We can't let you do this." Neji grit his teeth. "And I can't afford to let you stop me." Naruto gave a bit of a sigh. "I won't let you stand in our way." Neji's intense eyes narrowed. "Likewise." Naruto rushed at Neji, whose attacks and defenses were on a whole other level. Naruto did, to his credit, have resistance to the gentle fist technique due to his tailed beast, but beyond that, there wasn't much he could do against Neji. Not when Neji was far older and more experienced. In the end, Naruto was knocked back by him. As he laid there, Itachi stood. He stepped in front of Naruto and Sasuke, ready to defend them. Neji laughed. "And what do you hope to do that he couldn't?" Itachi smiled. "Win." And with that, the two of them launched into an intense battle, to which Neji found himself surprised. Itachi was on a whole other level compared to Naruto. He was quicker, more agile, and his perception was only further increased by his Sharingan. Neji actually felt himself being pushed back a bit. But with all things being considered, Neji was still superior to Itachi with taijutsu. The ninjutsu and abilities of his Mangekyo Sharingan, while strong, were not quite enough to stop Neji. Neji ended up knocking Itachi back. Itachi rolled along the ground. He gasped as he came to one knee. Naruto and Sasuke were behind him. Naruto managed to sit up. Itachi looked back. "Naruto, Sasuke, the only way for me to have a chance is if you give me your power, please." Naruto would nod. "All right." He would put his hand on Itachi's back, as would Sasuke. They would begin to flow their chakra into Itachi. Itachi felt it entering his body, flowing together, mixing with his chakra. Suddenly, he felt something awaken. His eyes opened and displayed the Rinnegan in both. He was surprised by this increase in power, but furthermore, he felt the chakra swirling and intensifying, mixing with his tailed beast chakra. Suddenly, Itachi burst into a chakra mode, Truth Seeker Orbs hovering behind him. Neji stood there and sneered. He knew that Itachi had just awakened the same power he had. Neji would then enter his Tenseigan chakra mode. Itachi and Neji would then resume their battle. They moved through the air so quickly that they couldn't even be seen, only heard. With each strike, with each movement, they broke the sound barrier. Naruto could only look on in surprise as Itachi and Neji faced off. Itachi would rush at Neji with a strike. Neji would utilize his palm rotation to defend himself. Eventually, Itachi ran out of breath and the jutsu came to an end. Neji would be seen walking through the charred remains of trees. He would fire it at Itachi, who would summon his Susanoo and defend with the Yata mirror. The blast, however, was so powerful that it completely shattered both, causing Itachi to go rolling. Itachi came to a stop and rose to his knees. He was steaming from the attack, and it was obvious that he was at his limit. It was then that Neji formed the Sword of Nonoboko and approached Itachi to finish it off. In another life, in another place, you would be standing where I am now, proclaiming that death brings peace. But unlike you, I will not fall. He would raise his blade to strike Itachi down. He then swings the blade. Itachi quickly rolls forward and forms a spear from a Truth Seeker Orb and plunges it into Neji's chest, piercing his heart, pinning him to a tree. Neji is startled. Itachi stands there and coughs into his elbow, his eyes displaying grogginess. "Perhaps you're right," he said. "In that world, I don't doubt that I would be standing where you are. I've had the same thoughts. Would the world not be better off without Shinobi? But at the same time, people are free to choose their path. What will be, and we can't stop it. Even if we ended war one day, it would return again the next. You can't change human nature. You can't destroy who we are without destroying us. Allow me to demonstrate." He turned around and walked away. And as he did, the Truth Seeker Orb spear detonated, taking Neji along with it. Itachi continued to walk out of the forest and onto the road, where Naruto and Sasuke were waiting. His form would come to an end. "Did you do it?" Sasuke asked. Itachi would raise a thumb, no longer caring if Sasuke could see it. It was all he had the strength to do before his legs went out from under him. "Itachi!" Naruto raced to his side. He turned him over. "We need to get him to Konoha, fast!" He loaded up Itachi on his back and tied the rope around his waist again. Naruto began to lead them back to the village. All the while, he felt the wet warmth of blood against his back. "Please, hold on, Itachi. Please hold on." Fugaku sat in his office, kicking some poor trash can out of shape and then back into shape only to kick it out of shape once more. He was frustrated, unable to find Sasuke or Naruto, and now he had lost Itachi too. He felt like a total failure. He sat at his desk, seething. It was then that a shinobi walked in. "Sir, they've returned." Fugaku sat up. "What?" The shinobi continued. "Your sons. All three have returned, but you need to hurry to the hospital. They're in bad shape." Fugaku stood immediately and made his way out the door and into the streets. He raced through the village, past the townsfolk with such speed that you might think he was the Leaf's yellow flash returned to life. Racing to the hospital, he stepped to the front desk to ask for room numbers before making his way up the stairs. He was met there by his wife, Makoto, the only person who could have made it any quicker than he. "What's happening? Are they all okay?" Makoto looked back. "They're being checked out now. Naruto seems to be fine. Sasuke, he was blinded." Fugaku nearly put his fist through the wall. "And what of Itachi?" Makoto stood there for a moment. "He was unconscious when he was brought back to the village, and he was drooling a bloody froth. Tsunade's in there with him now." Fugaku dropped to his knees, his head against the wall. Makoto walked over to him and wrapped her arms around him. Eventually, Tsunade stepped out. Makoto and Fugaku looked up at her. Please tell me he's okay." She took a deep breath. "He overexerted himself pretty badly. The damage to his lungs, the cancer, She stood there for a moment. "I don't think there's anything I can do for him. I don't think he'll make it through the night." Fugaku broke down into tears along with Makoto. Tsunade looked away from them. She grit her teeth. "I'm sorry," she squeaked under a clearing of her throat as she walked away. Fugaku and Makoto stepped into the room where their son was. He was laying in the bed, seemingly unconscious. He just looked so tired. He had fought so hard, and now he was ready to rest. Fugaku and Makoto took a seat, each on either side of him. They took his hands, hoping to get his attention. Itachi opened his eyes just barely and looked at them. "Mom, Dad," he whispered. They grew close. "We're here." Itachi looked at them both. "I brought them home," he said. Fugaku bit his lip as tears raced down his cheeks. He nodded. "Yes, son, you did. I couldn't be more proud." Makoto just kissed the back of his hand, unsure what more to do than that. It was a mother's instinct. He lay there silently for a moment. "Sasuke, he's blind." Fugaku nodded. "It's not your fault." Itachi looked at Fugaku. "Give him my Sharingan." Fugaku clenched his teeth so tightly that one of his molars split in two. Blood began pooling in his mouth. "Itachi." Itachi lay there, fighting for each breath. "Papa, Mama, I'm tired. Can I sleep?" Fugaku had to be careful not to squeeze Itachi's hand too tightly, as he could hardly keep himself composed. Makoto had lost composure. Fugaku nodded. "Yes, you've done so well. I'm so proud of you. If you feel the need to rest now, you can rest. We're going to be okay. Because of you, we're going to be okay." Itachi took a breath that almost sounded like a sigh. He closed his eyes. His breathing quickened for a moment, and then it stopped. Makoto and Fugaku cried. A week later, as Fugaku stood there above the grave, "No father should ever have to bury their son," he said. Hiruzen placed a hand on his shoulder. "That phrase is one I spoke at the end of every funeral during the Second and Third World Wars. He was a fighter. He fought valiantly. He was the embodiment of the will of fire." Fugaku looked down to Hiruzen with tears in his eyes. "Does it get easier?" Hiruzen had tears in his own eyes. "The pain dulls with time, but it will always be a part of you. And from my experience, even though the memories bring me pain, if I had the choice right now to forget, I would choose to remember." He pat Fugaku's shoulder and moved on. Fugaku looked down at Sasuke. Sasuke looked up at his father, his eyes bearing the light of his soul through the windows Itachi had given him. Looking into these eyes, he saw both Sasuke and Itachi looking back. He lifted his son up into his arms and held him there, offering a kiss to his cheek. Fugaku looked down at Naruto and placed a hand on his head before kneeling down to embrace him as well. "I love you too." And life moved on. It didn't stop for anyone. The hands of time continued to spin, and the days passed into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. The pain had dulled, leaving memories bittersweet. But every time he looked into the mirror, Sasuke saw Itachi looking back at him, and he could have sworn that he witnessed a smile play upon his lips. As the years passed on, Hanabi would grow into a fine young woman, and she would marry and give birth to children, and those children would eventually grow and give birth to children of their own. The generations passed, and the Hyuga eventually returned to their full number, but things had changed. The elders learned from their mistakes and refused to allow the same to occur again. Even if their Byakugan was stolen, it didn't matter so long as they had family, and due to the bonds of love, the Hyuga became stronger than ever. And that's the end of our story. As I write this, I'm wiping away tears. I've not been affected by anything I've written quite like this, but this was the way of things, I suppose. Itachi's death was something that was important to the canon, and though we loved him, we gotta let him go. But, you know, now that I've made what could be the absolute saddest video pertaining to Itachi known to mankind, it frees me up to write perhaps the happiest video pertaining to Itachi known to mankind. I promise I won't leave you here to suffer with this. I hope to see you there. Until then, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well, then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.